Yeah, my question would be then what's next?
Yeah.
What can we start doing today, is or as a small business or as a race team, to kind of see what's around the corner 2017 and
Right.
beyond? So what do you think, Thomas?
Well, this time of year it's interesting. We always do the forward view, the top digital marketing trends for next year. What's hot, what's new. People are asking, well, what about Snapchat? Should I be on it? What about Instagram? Where is this all going? And I can tell you at the end of the day, you have unique channels for unique audiences. Take Pinterest. No, Spencer, are you on Pinterest? No, not so much, right? No, he's not going to be on Pinterest. And probably for good reason. About 80% of Pinterest users are women, and most of the content that audience loves are recipes and fashion and so forth. It's not the appropriate channel. Take Snapchat. The majority of the audience are 13 to 25-year-olds. Not necessarily a bad place to be, because that's where your future fans are, but maybe going into 2017 might be something to consider. A live feed from time to time. We've seen Instagram now offer live feeds, daily updates and so forth, and also notifications. This is pretty new. With the new operating systems on all the smartphones, we found that one channel that's extremely effective are notifications. Meaning, when you get this notification on your phone telling you, hey, your app needs to be updated. But now notifications also come from, apps like CNN, breaking news. So for companies who have apps or they have, really timely content, I think we're going to see a lot more engagement from notifications going into next year, because 99.9% of, if you think about it, 99.9% of texts get read, right? You can't say that about email and a lot of social media content, right? You'd be lucky if 5 to 10% of your content gets seen.
Yeah.
But everyone we all check our text messages.
Right. We may not reply,
right,
but we do check them. You're right.
Yeah.
And Spencer, from your perspective, as you walk around the pit area and you're gauging the fans on a regular basis, what are the fans asking for more of? And they want to connect more with the drivers. What can we do to connect them?
That's a good question. You mentioned the Snapchat thing. It's a very good point. I got to think about these fans, that are coming up now, and that everything's going to be different for them. But, I think that anytime you can engage them and get more behind the scenes, it's better. That Periscope has been fantastic, because I remember the most recent one I did, I was walking just from our trailer to the grid, and it happened to be the path I needed to take took me by some really, really cool equipment.
Yeah.
And so just, go peek into the driver's life, and just as something as mundane as walking from your trailer to, where you get up in the race car was fantastic.
Well, you take it for granted. Right?
You do. Yeah. I kind of do this day in and day out. So it turns into a job, and I still have a passion for it. I love it. I'll never get to the point where I'm not really just in awe of what I get to do. But there are times when you don't think that this is the highlight. You're not racing to the checker wheel to wheel. It's just a simple walk. But the fans really like anything that can kind of get them, more intimate, more personal, and that's really what they crave.
Well, I think drivers should wear body cameras when walking around the pit areas, the paddock. And then fans could tune in at any time on their mobile device to see where their favorite driver is. What are they doing? They're currently in an autograph session, or maybe they're in a driver briefing, something like that. I think
or changing out of their driver suit or something.
Yeah, right. Well, we can turn it off sometimes, but from you, Eric, what can sponsors expect on the horizon as far as more interactive digital marketing going forward in next year?
Well, again, they're always looking for different ways to engage the fan and getting their brand impression in front of them. A lot of what's happening now is tied to the hospitality, inviting guests to the tracks and things like that. So it could be anything to make the people that are actually already there part of the team, and doing some things that can engage the guests that are there, because I think that's something that really hasn't been tapped into. The other thing that you're seeing more of, and it's just starting, is the Facebook Live. And drivers walking around the paddocks, and some of the celebrities and TV personalities are starting to do it, where you see them walking around. They're actually on the way into the track at 6 o'clock in the morning, or on their way out of the track at 6 o'clock at night. And that's one of the other things that people don't realize, is that these guys, it looks like they get all the glory. They're racing for 2 hours, but they're actually there for 12, in many cases 18 or 24. But being able to do things that are maybe a little bit more out of the box. And I think as the fan gets more immersed in this, we're going to have to be a lot more creative, because they really do want that now. They want to be in the action. So like what you were saying with the body cams, that's actually not a bad idea. Some of the drivers may not want that at certain points in the time, but think about what's going to happen when the fans for a NASCAR race. Many of them tune in to see the crashes. Well, that's an aspect that you don't really see much of. You may have an in-car camera that shows what happens to that sponsor's logo on the dashboard when the crash happens, but you're not seeing what actually happens to the driver. And you never know. It could actually help on a safety perspective, where you see the NFL and some of the other sports that are dealing with concussions and concussion protocols and whatnot. It happens to drivers too. You think about some of these impacts at 3 and 4 and 5 Gs. That's 3 and 4 or 5 times your body mass that's working against your brain and these impacts. And so it could be utilized in a lot of different ways to not just benefit the sponsors, but benefit the driver and from a safety standpoint.
That makes sense for sure. And I'm sure the driving world will soon implement augmented reality and virtual reality for all their fans and such as well. Maybe fans outside the gates can feel what it's like to be in the paddock area through some augmented reality. So I'm sure technology and advertising, because let's face it, there's a lot of sponsorship money in racing, and sponsors are not afraid to spend money. And I think racing is unique in that sense that it's one of the only sports where drivers, the more patches you have on your uniform, probably the more successful you are, and the sponsorship and the advertising